Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Kirill, your justice analyst from Belarus living in Germany. Today it's a special retrospective analysis edition where we will take a look at the Eurovision 2025 Grand Final and Semi-Final results, and I will compare the results of each and every country in the televoting in the semi-final and the final, because of course in the semi-final we only had televoting, and you will definitely be surprised to see how the viewers managed to start liking some songs by the time of the final. I will definitely give you my ideas what could be the case, but we should definitely not forget that the amount of votes which are received in each and every country in the semi-final and in the final, they change dramatically. If we take a look at the data from Spain, which was published, actually the amount of votes cast in the grand final was almost 10 times higher than the semi-final, which kind of means that you are kind of asking 10 times wider audience for their opinion, and of course opinion might slightly vary and it will be less influenced by the Eurovision fans. If you remember my last year's analysis, actually our top 5 growers were Greece, Cyprus, Ireland, surprisingly Finland, and the biggest grower was actually the winner, Nemo from Switzerland. But who will be the 5 biggest growers this year? But before I reveal them to you, let's take a look how exactly I was comparing these results. So now on your screen you can see, for example, the grand final votes of the televoting in Spain. If I do a little bit of magic and I remove all those countries which were not taking part in the first semi-final, this is the semi-final where Spain was of course voting. Now you can see that this is the top 10 qualifiers from the first semi-final for Spain in the grand final. Just try to remember the last 3 countries: Portugal, Iceland and San Marino. And now let's take a look at how Spain has actually voted in the first semi-final. Of course, this result also includes 5 countries which didn't qualify to the grand final, so let's just remove them, even though Spain actually peaked as 10 countries getting the points, only the ones who qualified. And you can already notice that the last 3 countries now changed. San Marino is still the last. But now we suddenly also have here Netherlands and Sweden was actually awarded quite some high points by Spain in the grand final. So now if we compare this top 10 from the semi-final with the top 10 from the grand final, including all participants coming from second semi-final and the grand final, you can see these changes. The biggest grower for Spanish audience was suddenly Sweden, the second biggest was actually Estonia, and the country which lost the most positions, 4 to be precise, was the neighbor Portugal. So I have done the same exercise with the votings of all countries who voted in the semi-finals and in the grand final. The only country for which I could not do that was San Marino, because they have used the jury result in the semi-final. Additionally, I also compared the total number of points received by each and every country in the semi-final with the points received from the same countries in the grand final to see how many points they have actually lost. The average loss between all semi-finalists is 47%, which kind of makes sense because you add the same amount of qualifiers from the other semi-final plus a couple of grand finalists. So of course the countries which made it to this top 5 definitely lost less than 45%. So let's start with the 5th place. So Armenia was ranked better in the grand final by 11 countries. 7 countries ranked it just the same like in the semi-final, and only 1 country, and it was Israel, felt like in the semi-final maybe they rated Armenia way too high. Their biggest increase by around 3 positions they got from Austria, Montenegro and the rest of the world, which unfortunately anyway didn't help because Armenia wasn't awarded any points by all these 3 countries. I think that this increase in televote support, even though speaking honestly it's not as significant as for the other 4 countries, is probably explained by a better running order. In the semi-final Armenia was performing before Austria in the beginning of the lineup, and in the grand final his running order was just much better. Even though Armenia has managed to improve a lot of their positions, actually Sweden was the country which almost didn't lose any points, because Armenia still lost 45% of their points, while Sweden has lost just 15. To be precise, from the countries taking part in the first semi-final, excluding San Marino, Sweden got 118 points in the semi-final, while getting still 100 points from the same countries in the grand final. So many countries from the first semi-final stayed true to Sweden, and 59% of them actually have even increased their score for Sweden. I have already shown you in the beginning the increase in the Spanish televote by 5 positions, which was actually the biggest. Spain has awarded Sweden out of 15 semi-finalists just 2 points, while in the grand final with actually much higher competition they still gave Sweden 5 points. Most probably it can be explained by the fact that Sweden was kind of a song which many Eurovision fans were be tired of. I think the Eurovision fans' votes counted more in the semifinals because there were just less people voting. And of course, the running order of Sweden in the grand final in comparison to the semifinal was also much better. So it's also definitely a factor which helped Sweden to get more points in the grand final, even though I still believe that they deserved more from the televoters. Opening our top 3, Justyna Steczkowska with Gaia. Actually, Justyna has lost 16% of her points, so just 1% more than Sweden, but if we see how each and every country has rated her, you can see that none of them have ranked her lower, 12 of them have even ranked her higher than in the semifinal, which of course also can be easily explained by her running order. She was performing second in the semifinal, which is a sort of a dead spot. In the grand final, the position was in the middle of the show, was much better, and I think this is just a song which also generally has a broader televote appeal, maybe not only relying on the Eurovision fans. So totally well deserved, and I'm so happy that she ended so high in the end. The biggest increase by 3 positions she got in Cyprus and Iceland, and with Iceland actually very interestingly, she has finished only on 4th place in the semifinal, getting just 7 points, while in the grand final she received 12 points from the Icelandic audience, being crowned the winner of the whole grand final by the Icelandic vote. Espresso, Macchiato, la la la. Choosing between the second place and the first place whom to really put higher was really not easy, because Estonia has actually received in the grand final from the participants of the semifinal 102 points, while in the semifinal it was 103 points, so almost absolutely the same points, which none other country even came close to. But if we take a look at those individual positions in tops of different countries, actually another country which is ranked first still was better than Estonia. In 13 countries it has improved its position, in 4 countries it just stayed on the same one, and none country thought in the grand final that Tommy Cash is actually not as good as they thought in the semifinal. The biggest increase Estonia actually got from Slovenia from all the countries. Slovenia has awarded Tommy Cash just 1 point in the semifinal, while putting him on 4th place and giving him 7 televote points in the grand final. He has also received 4 places increase from Spain, from Switzerland, from Sweden, 3 positions increase from Netherlands and Ukraine. I think this can be easily explained by the fact that in the running order in the grand final he was kind of in the beginning, he was definitely stuck in the mind of the audience, who were still unaware that there are more funny entries coming afterwards, and this one just won their hearts. And definitely we all know that Tommy Cash was not so popular in the Eurovision fandom, that's why it's not a surprise that in the semifinal he was ranked slightly lower. And then in the grand final, all the viewers who just see the songs for the first time maybe have heard Espresso Macchiato a week ago or a month ago in their Spotify chart, definitely were impressed and were voting heavily for this. So Tommy Cash really did a very impressive improvement in his points in comparison to the semifinal score. And actually for a second year in a row, we have the winner of the jury voting and the winner of the whole Eurovision Song Contest ranking first in this rating. I find it very interesting because we are always talking about the fact that The Code by Nemo, or now also Wasted Love by JJ, was not the audience winner, but this statistic really shows that maybe it was not Eurovision fans winner, but the general audience really loved these entries. Austria has received increase in the rankings of 17 countries who voted in the semi-final. Just 1 country kept their opinion the same, and just 1 ranked them somehow lower, just by 1 position, but it was actually the neighbor in Switzerland. Their biggest increase by 6 positions they have received in the voting of rest of the world. They were not awarded even a single point by rest of the world in the semi-final. Moreover, JJ was ranked just 13th in the semi-final by the rest of the world voting, while in the grand final he managed to get 1 point to be in the top 10 of them. Maybe also the running order has helped, I'm not really sure, but it's just great to see that he managed to win so many more hearts towards the final. He was also ranked 5 positions higher by the French audience, and just so many countries have gave him smaller increases of 3, 2 or 1 position, which resulted in him being awarded 104 points by the countries voting in the second semi-final, and then from the same countries he has received 92 points in the grand final, so almost didn't lose any points. To put it into percentages, his loss was just 12%. And I still have 2 interesting facts for you. So I already told you about the increases by 6, by 5 positions in the tops of single countries just by 1 country, but there was 1 voting where 1 country managed to win 8 positions in comparison to the semi-final ranking. It was actually the position of Luxembourg in the vote of Montenegro. If you take a look at their semi-final votes, you can see that Luxembourg was ranked 10th, getting just 1 point, while in the grand final, Thorn actually has received 3rd place in the whole televote of Montenegro, being awarded 8 points. She has also actually received 4 points from Montenegrin jury, so maybe it was not love from the first sight, but Montenegro public definitely learned to love this beautiful entry. Another curious record, there was one country which almost didn't lose their points in comparison to semi-final as well, so losing just 24% of them. I have already told you that the average score is actually 47%, and it was Israel, which of course has won the second semi-final, being awarded 12 points from almost all countries, so there was not really much improvement potential left. Still, in one country they managed to get a higher position, 14 countries just kept them at the same level, but 4 countries have ranked Yuval Raphael lower than someone else in the semi-final. So these were the top 5 growers of the Eurovision week, and I find it extremely interesting that the winner of the Eurovision Song Contest is for a 2nd consecutive year in a row also the biggest grower of the public support. Definitely subscribe to my channel if you still haven't. Very soon the second part with top 5 flops in comparison to the semi-final results is coming. Stay tuned and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.